Hey everybody, welcome to day 56 of my mental health journey. For those of you who aren't aware, essentially I use this as a day-to-day documentation of my ups and downs with mental health, mainly anxiety, just with the hopes of connecting with folks who might be going through similar things, as well as using this as a platform for people for whom I can't speak to share their opinions and hopefully connect with more people in the process. So yeah, it's been about 5 months. It's been a long time since I've logged into my YouTube account. I just felt somewhat depleted as far as content to provide, but not in the sense that I would never have content again, but more so that I just needed to live some life and synthesize or bring together those experiences so I could have more material for you guys to listen to and if not relate to, hopefully somebody that can relate to it, and this can be a benefit to somebody, because that's always what it's been at the end of the day. This is me essentially just pushing out my stream of consciousness, and I felt like the stars aligned on this one a bit. I was talking with my good friend Lucky, who has his channel Mental Health that I will, regarding mental health, that I will put in the link below. But well, jokingly, in some respect, I received a charge from the service that I use to provide my podcast. So I figured, what the hell, I might as well. I feel like I've had a few experiences recently that I think are worth mentioning. And the main thing for me, that throughout my life I've always felt like I stifled myself in a lot of ways. And this is something that I've really come to grips with more, having gone to therapy for a couple months now. So I feel like more in tune with my feelings, and just looking back on some of the conversations I've had, I realized that there's a lot more to talk about that I didn't really bring light to previously. But basically, I felt like I always had to stifle myself in the sense that, like, if I had a strong emotion, I had to dull it. If I worried about somebody else's opinion regarding my opinion, I would dull my opinion, at least when I was expressing it to somebody else. And I recently had a conversation with my parents just about, my happiness and my work, and in general, just life in general, I suppose. And as far as work goes, I love the people I work with, and I've been doing a great job. I've learned a lot. I've been moving forward. Like, I have a clear trajectory and everything. But, I don't necessarily feel entirely fulfilled. And I recognize that some people obtain their fulfillment from doing things outside of work, and they work to obtain the money that will allow them to pay their rent, and that's totally fine. That's surviving, and in many cases it's more than surviving. It's allowing you to take your family on a trip. It's allowing yourself to take you on a trip if you want to go to Greece for a weekend or something like that. And it's totally valid. It's not realistic to think that everybody is going to live their dream out or something like that. And I've come to grips with that. I recognize that in order for me to live any sort of dream I have, and to have that dream job, so to speak, like, I'm going to have to work towards it. I'm going to have to be cerebral with it, in the sense of asking myself, like, I know you're comfortable right now, but, like, what would be your ideal position? And for me personally, I don't know that yet, but I know it's something where I need to ascend levels. And that's always kind of how I've been. I want to have a certain vibe check every once in a while to see what I've learned, but it's got to be like something I'm really passionate about. And right now I'm like pretty passionate about what I do, in the sense that, like, I get good feedback and everything, but I don't necessarily think that it's what I want to do for the rest of my life. And sometimes when it comes to me speaking with my parents, I worry about telling them, like, I'll tell them, of course, that I'm ascending and I'm learning a lot and I'm forging great connections, but I don't necessarily tell them that this doesn't give me a sense of purpose. Like, it doesn't make me feel that feeling that I'm dying to feel, if that makes sense, that fire that I still want to ignite internally that helps get me out of bed every day. And the thing that's weird about it is there's a lot of things in my life outside of work that make me want to get up. I wake up pretty much every weekday around 5:30 so I can do martial arts at 6 a.m. And I love it. It's incredible. It's made my life so much better. I have an incredible family. I have an incredible girlfriend who I'm coming up on a year with. And, I hope to spend my life with her. And, there's just a lot. And obviously I have great friends in the background. My self-confidence has grown a lot in the past year. Like, there's been a lot of good stuff, but it just feels like there's this kind of void, I guess, where my work isn't necessarily giving me that sense of purpose. And maybe it's because I go on, I'm a big fan of going on like YouTube and watching documentaries, or going on Wikipedia and reading the life stories of these people who, they found their purpose at 13 years old. They're the child prodigy, and they just literally had a 70-year career in acting or sports or whatever the case may be. And I hold myself to this absurdly high comparison, where in reality, like, everybody is living their own journey, and it's unfair to compare yourself or tether yourself to the ideas and the experiences of somebody else. So I kind of have lived that reality for a long time, and I was always like, even if I was doing well at a job, I'd be afraid to tell my parents, because like my parents worry and stuff, and just like the way I grew up, like I didn't want to make them worry, so I would just tell them everything was all good, even though a lot of times they kind of knew that it wasn't all good, but they were just waiting for me to express myself. Like, they didn't want to lead me to the finish line. They wanted me to come to the conclusion, and then I don't want to say have the heart, because everybody's situation is different, but just have the fortitude, or you reach that critical mass point where you have to say something. And recently my parents were kind of asking me about work and everything, and I told them, yeah, I'm doing well, and everything's great, like, outside of work, but I'm going to keep it real. Like, I have reservations, and this isn't my passion. Like, I'm doing what I have to do, and I'm learning a lot, and there's a lot of great things, like the people I work with, and just the fact that I have more freedom as far as being able to work remote, and there's a lot of good things going on outside of my life. But I'd be lying if I said that this was 100% what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I feel like I put a lot of pressure on myself to find that thing, and I don't know if I will ever find that thing. Like, and the fact that I'm 29 and I haven't found that thing yet, like, that also gives me a lot of anxiety. Like, it makes it so when I'm not working, or I'm not doing those things I mentioned before, like, martial arts, or hanging with my friends or my girlfriend, or doing Spanish or something like that, like, it holds a burden on me, where it's just like, well, why, when you're hanging out, like, why aren't you working harder to figure out exactly what you want to do? And sometimes, like, I don't know if I'm expecting it to fall into my lap, or if I'm just expecting the right scenario to kind of spark my interest, because I know my work ethic is there, but I just don't know what I'm working towards yet. And I guess that kind of scares me. But I don't want to leave this podcast, or this episode of the podcast, on a bad note, because at the end of the day, the main thing that I wanted to talk about was the fact that I felt comfortable finally telling my parents, like, how I really felt, without worrying about how they would react to it, without worrying about feeling like a failure because I had these doubts or anything, but just allowing myself to explain how I feel in the moment. And regardless of how they react to it, like, just being comfortable enough to say it, because I love my parents. I want them to know, like, the real me. I mean, I spent so much time stifling the real me that I think it's not only a disservice to myself first and foremost, but it's a disservice to them. I mean, I love them, as I said. I want them to know where I'm at, where I want to be. And if I'm just saying everything is all rosy and I'm looking through rose-tinted glasses, they're not going to have a real sense of where I'm at, and they're going to be surprised when, like, I come to them when I really hit that critical mass and I'm like, I'm in the gutter or something like that. Like, I don't want to reach that point. And I think that therapy has helped me in a lot of ways, to just take those those thoughts that kind of consume you, like worries and whatnot, and breaking them down into fractions and just tending to each fraction individually, not trying to take on everything all at once. I'm trying to figure out what drives me. Like, that's not going to happen in the span of 2 seconds. Like, I'm going to have to really dig deep and figure out, like, what makes me happy, but, like, maybe I can't make a career out of it. So, like, all right, that's off the table. I can still do that in my background life, but what do I want to do for my future? Like, this is something I'm going to be in for a long time. And I know, and I'm guilty of it too, I've kind of hopped around between jobs and everything, but I want to have something that I can commit myself to. And I feel like I'm at that crossroads right now where I'm figuring it out, and it's scary, but at the same time, I feel like a lot of people go through it. We just don't talk about it. So I hope that anybody who's listening to this, whether or not you're in your dream position, know that you're worth it and that you're going to find that spark that eventually drives you. And it doesn't matter if it happens at 13, as I mentioned with those child prodigies, or if you're 55 or 70. Like, we can all come into our own in our own time frame because it's our own process. And I spent so much time comparing myself to other people and worrying about what other people thought of me that I didn't give myself the grace of knowing that this is my timeline. I don't have to abide by anyone else's timeline. So I love you guys. I promise I will continue to put out more content. Like I said, the combination of Laki reaching out and then receiving that that bill for my service, which was small, by the way. It was just like a nice little reminder. It reminded me just how much I love doing this stuff, but I needed a little break to just, I was pumping out content and I needed some time to reflect on my life in general and live life, frankly. And now that I feel like I've done that more so, there's going to be some more consistent content. But as I said, I love you guys. I hope that everybody who's continued to follow me and anybody who will follow me in the future knows that people love you, even if you think they don't. And the process that you're going through is unique to yourself, and you shouldn't compare yourself to anybody. Easier said than done, but you know how that goes. So take it easy, guys, and I'll see you on the next episode.